I was 40 minutes into my routine maintenance check of the subway service tunnels when I found the work order taped to tunnel wall C7, written in my own handwriting for a job I'd never been assigned. December 3rd, 2023, Metropolitan Transit Authority, and I'd been working the underground maintenance crew for 5 years, mostly fixing track signals and checking ventilation systems. But tonight felt different from the moment I descended into those concrete corridors with their constant dripping sounds and the smell of metal and dampness that never quite left your clothes after a shift. The work order system had been acting up all month, generating duplicate assignments and phantom repair requests. But my supervisor, Janet, kept saying it was just computer glitches, nothing to worry about, just follow your regular schedule and ignore the extras. Except Janet hadn't been answering her radio for 3 days and her equipment locker was still locked with her personal items inside. Around 11 p.m., I was checking the air filtration units in Section C when I noticed the work order, officially stamped and dated, requesting immediate inspection of Tunnel C7, subsection 4, signed with my employee ID number and my exact signature. But I was looking at my own clipboard, and I'd never written any such request. Never even heard of subsection 4 in a tunnel that only had 3 marked sections, according to every map I'd ever seen. I tried to radio dispatch, but got only static mixed with what sounded like voices speaking in reverse. Words that almost made sense if you listened carefully enough, like instructions being played backward through water. And when I checked my digital assignment tablet, it showed the same work order, but with additional notes written in my handwriting. Customer reports strange sounds. Investigate immediately. Use standard protocol 7. Except we didn't have a protocol 7 and I'd never used the phrase customer reports in any maintenance log. The tunnel lights started flickering in sequence, one after another down the long corridor. Not randomly, but in a pattern that seemed almost like Morse code. And as I followed the pattern deeper into the tunnel system, I realized I was walking through sections that weren't on any of the maps I'd memorized. Passages that curved in directions that didn't match the official subway layout, leading to areas that felt older than the rest of the system, with different concrete and different pipe installations. That's when I heard the train coming, that familiar rumble and screech of metal on metal. But according to my schedule, there weren't supposed to be any trains running through this section until morning, and when I pressed myself against the tunnel wall to let it pass, I saw through the windows that every seat was occupied by people wearing maintenance uniforms, identical to mine, all sitting perfectly still, all staring straight ahead with expressions that looked exactly like my face when I'm concentrating on work. I grabbed my emergency manual, but every page showed the same maintenance procedure, repeated over and over. When encountering subsection 4, proceed with standard inspection. Note any anomalies, report findings to dispatch. Do not deviate from assigned route. Written in handwriting that looked increasingly like mine with each repetition, and the ink was still wet in some places, still spreading across the pages like it was being written in real time. The air in the tunnel started moving in ways that didn't match the ventilation system, creating drafts that felt almost like breathing, and I could hear sounds echoing from deeper in the tunnel, sounds like tools being used, like maintenance work being performed, like someone else was down here following the same work order, checking the same systems, but staying just far enough ahead that I couldn't quite catch up. The radio crackled to life with dispatch calling my ID number, asking for a status report on the C7 subsection 4 inspection. But the voice sounded exactly like mine, using my speech patterns and my usual technical terminology, giving updates on work I hadn't done yet, reporting completion of tasks I was still walking toward, and I realized that whatever was using my voice had been down here before, had done this job already, was somehow ahead of me in the tunnel system, even though I was following the only possible route. I tried to turn back, but the tunnel behind me looked different now, longer than it should be. With branching passages I didn't remember walking past, and my flashlight beam seemed to fade faster than it should, like the darkness down here was thicker than normal darkness, more substantial, and in that fading light I could see wet footprints on the tunnel floor. Boot prints that. Matched my work boots exactly, leading deeper into subsection 4 toward an area my map showed as solid concrete, but that clearly opened into another corridor. The maintenance sounds got louder as I followed the footprints. Sounds like someone using my tools in my exact working rhythm. The way I always tap pipes 3 times before checking pressure. The way I always test switches twice before marking them as functional. And when I reached the end of subsection 4, I found a maintenance station that looked exactly like our main depot, but somehow fit inside this narrow tunnel, complete with tool lockers and workbenches and time clocks. And there was a punch card with my name already inserted in the time clock, showing that I'd clocked in 6 hours ago, even though I'd only been down here for an hour. The work order on the bulletin board showed dozens of completed inspections, all signed with my signature, all reporting successful maintenance of tunnel systems that extended far beyond what should fit in the space beneath the city. Systems that connected to other cities, other transit networks, other underground facilities that I'd never heard of, but that my handwriting claimed I'd been maintaining for years. If you're hearing this, if someone finds this recording on my work phone, please know that I tried to leave the tunnel system, but every exit I took led to the same maintenance station. The same bulletin board with more work orders in my handwriting, more completed inspections for tunnels that shouldn't exist. And I think I understand now that this underground network has been growing, expanding, learning how to maintain itself by watching maintenance workers like me, studying our procedures, our routines, our methods, and maybe the transit authority doesn't know how far these tunnels really extend. Maybe they think they're managing a small subway system when they're actually connected to something much larger, something that needs workers who never get tired, never ask questions, never try to leave their assigned sections. The time clock just chimed the end of my shift, but there's another work order waiting with my name on it, another tunnel section that needs inspection, another maintenance task that somehow I've already completed according to the paperwork. And if you found this story interesting and want to hear more encounters from underground workers, please like and subscribe, because these experiences need to be shared before they're forgotten. And remember, if you ever work in tunnels or underground facilities and start finding work orders in your own handwriting for jobs you don't remember doing, don't try to investigate. Just follow your original assignment and get back to the surface, because some maintenance work is meant to be done by people who don't need to understand what they're really maintaining. But here's what I can't understand. What keeps me puzzled as I stand here looking at another work order with tomorrow's date? If I've been doing maintenance work down here for years, according to these records, completing inspections I don't remember, maintaining systems I've never seen before, then who exactly has been working my shifts up on the surface? And why do I have the strange feeling that my replacement probably does a much better job than I ever did? I was halfway through my overnight shift at the radio station when every emergency alert system in the building started chiming at once. But what made me pause wasn't the sound. It was hearing my own voice coming through the speakers before I'd even opened my mouth. October 15th, 2023, WKTR 94.7 FM. And I'd been doing graveyard shifts there for 3 years. Nothing ever happened except prank callers and the occasional power hiccup. But tonight felt different from the moment I walked into that cramped broadcast booth with its flickering fluorescent lights and the smell of burnt coffee that never seemed to leave the worn carpet. The emergency broadcast system had been acting up all week, randomly activating during quiet moments, but our chief engineer Dave kept saying it was just old wiring, nothing to worry about, just reset it and move on, except Dave hadn't been answering his phone for 2 days, and his car was still in the parking lot, with morning dew still on the windshield, despite being there since Tuesday. Around 2 a.m., I was playing some classic rock when the EBS tone cut through everything, that familiar digital beep that always makes you pay attention. But instead of the usual test message, I heard my own voice saying, "This is not a test. Please remain calm and stay in your homes. Do not look. Outside, do not answer your doors. They may not be who they appear to be," except I was sitting right there with my mouth closed, watching the words scroll across the emergency display like someone else was controlling them. Someone who knew exactly how I pronounced certain words, how I always cleared my throat before important announcements. I tried to override the system, but every button I pressed just made my voice on the recording sound more urgent, more concerned, like I was reading from a script I'd never seen before, but somehow knew perfectly. And when I finally managed to cut the feed, the silence that followed felt strangely heavy, like the air itself was waiting for something to happen. My hands were trembling as I called our technical supervisor, but the phone just rang endlessly with that hollow echo you get in empty buildings. Same with the station manager, same with Dave. And when I tried to call the local police, the line was busy with that odd, busy signal that almost sounds musical, like someone humming a tune mixed with static that formed strange patterns, melodies I was certain I'd heard before in half-remembered dreams. That's when I noticed the security cameras weren't showing the parking lot anymore. They were showing the inside of the broadcast booth, but from angles that couldn't exist, cameras pointing down at my desk from corners where no equipment was mounted, showing perspectives that defied the room's actual layout. And in every monitor, I could see myself sitting there, except in one of them, I was standing behind my own chair, gesturing like I was explaining something important. But no sound was coming through the booth speakers, just the faint whisper of air moving in ways that didn't match the room's ventilation. I grabbed the emergency procedures manual, but every page was blank, except for one sentence repeated over and over in handwriting that looked suspiciously like mine. Do not trust the voice that sounds like yours. And the ink looked fresh, still slightly wet. And when I looked up, every single monitor was showing a different version of me. Some looking worried with expressions of deep concern, some appearing confused and lost, some just staring directly into the camera with looks I'd never made in my life, but somehow recognized anyway, like seeing photos of yourself from events you couldn't remember attending. The temperature in the booth started dropping noticeably, and I could see my breath forming small clouds, which seemed impossible because it was still 78 degrees outside according to our weather feed. But the heating system wasn't responding, and condensation was forming on the inside of the windows in patterns that looked almost like handprints, small ones, child-sized, pressing against the glass from inside the booth, even though I was completely alone. That's when I heard footsteps in the hallway, slow measured steps that stopped right outside the booth door. And I knew the sound of every floorboard in this old building, knew which ones creaked and which ones were silent. But these footsteps were hitting spots that shouldn't make any sound at all, except someone was turning the door handle, except the handle was moving from both sides somehow, like someone inside was helping someone outside enter. And I realized one of the monitors was showing the hallway view, and there was nobody there, just an empty corridor with fluorescent lights that seemed to flicker in rhythm with my heartbeat. But the door was still slowly opening anyway. The emergency broadcast started again, my voice filling the booth like it was coming from everywhere at once. But this time, it was sharing things I'd never said aloud, personal details, childhood memories, the name of my first pet Charlie, who passed away when I was 7, the last conversation I had with my father before he moved across the country, things nobody else could know, things I'd never told anyone, not even my closest friends during those late-night talks when we shared our deepest thoughts. And I realized that whatever was using my voice knew everything about me, had been observing me, studying me, learning every detail of my life and personality, preparing to step into my place so seamlessly that even I might not notice the difference. I tried to leave, but the door wouldn't move, and the handle felt strangely warm under my palm, like it was somehow alive, and all the monitors went dark except one, which showed the parking lot, and I could see my car pulling away with someone who looked exactly like me behind the wheel. Someone who adjusted the rearview mirror in the same way I do, who drummed fingers on the steering wheel in the identical nervous pattern I've had since learning to drive. And I'm still here in this booth, and it's been 6 hours, and my voice continues broadcasting emergency messages to a town that might not even exist anymore. Messages that become more personal each time, sharing memories I didn't realize I had. The person who looks like me is out there right now, probably sitting in my apartment, using my computer, sleeping in my bed, and maybe calling my mother to check in just like I do every Sunday. Except it's not Sunday. It's still the middle of the night, and my mother will think it's thoughtful that I called. She'll mention to her friends how considerate her son is. never knowing that her real son is stuck in a radio booth watching condensation spell out messages on windows that shouldn't be fogging up. If you're hearing this, if someone is listening, please don't trust the voice on the radio that sounds like mine, because I'm trapped in here and whatever is out there wearing my appearance and driving my car and living my life is not me. And I don't know how much longer I can resist before it takes my voice completely, before I become just another empty monitor showing nothing but static. So if you found this story interesting and want to hear more mysterious encounters, please like and subscribe, because these experiences need to be shared before it's too late. And remember, if you hear your own voice calling to you in the darkness, don't respond, because some doors should never be opened. Some calls should never be returned, and some emergency broadcasts are meant to warn you about things that are already inside your house, already inside your life, already wearing your identity like clothing they've been practicing to wear perfectly. But here's what I can't understand, what keeps me puzzled, even though I'm living in this strange situation. If I'm trapped in this booth, and that person is out there pretending to be me, living my life perhaps better than I ever did, making my mother proud, maintaining my job, paying my bills on time, then who exactly is telling you this story right now? And why does my voice sound so calm when I should be much more concerned about what's happening to me? I was sorting through my grandmother's estate when I found the antique music box that played my childhood lullaby perfectly. But the melody stopped exactly where my memory of that song always cuts off, at the part I could never remember past age 7. January 14th, 2024, and I'd been putting off cleaning out her old Victorian house for 3 months since the funeral. Mostly because being there made me feel like she was still sitting in her favorite chair, still humming those old songs she used to sing to help me sleep during summer visits. But today felt different from the moment I opened the dusty music room with its sheet-covered piano and the persistent smell of lavender sachets that she kept in every drawer. The music box had been sitting on the mantelpiece between family photos, a delicate porcelain thing with a tiny ballerina that spun slowly when the lid opened. And I'd never seen it before, despite spending countless hours in that room as a child. But when I wound the small brass key and lifted the lid, it played Brahms' Lullaby in the exact melody and tempo my grandmother used to hum, complete with the little pause she always made after the third verse. I tried to let it play to the end, but the music stopped abruptly at the exact moment where my memory always went blank. That strange gap in my childhood recollections that started around age 7 when I stopped staying overnight at grandmother's house. And when I tried to wind it again, the music box wouldn't open, like something inside was preventing the mechanism from working. The real estate agent had mentioned that grandmother left specific instructions about certain items, things that were meant for me personally. And when I checked the paperwork, there was a handwritten note in her familiar script. For my dear grandson, may this help you remember what you chose to forget. But I'd never told anyone about the memory gap, never mentioned to grandmother that I couldn't recall why my summer visits suddenly stopped, why my parents seemed nervous whenever I asked about those early childhood trips. That's when I noticed the music box felt heavier than it should, like there was something extra inside beyond the simple mechanism. And when I held it up to the light, I could see there was a hidden compartment behind the mirror, but opening it required pressing the ballerina's head in a specific sequence that I somehow knew without thinking, like muscle memory from decades ago guiding my fingers to the right pattern. Inside the compartment were dozens of small photographs, all of me at age 6 and 7, but in pictures I'd never seen before. Pictures of me in rooms of grandmother's house that I didn't remember visiting, pictures of me playing with toys I didn't recognize, smiling and laughing with people whose faces had been carefully scratched out with black ink. And in every photo I was holding the same music box, winding it, listening to it, dancing to its melody, like it was the most important thing in my small world. The back of each photograph had dates written in grandmother's handwriting, dates that corresponded exactly to those missing summer visits, and brief notes like, he loves the music, sleeps so peacefully, doesn't ask about going home anymore, and the music helps him forget the questions. And I realized that whatever happened during those visits, whatever caused my parents to stop sending me there, was connected to this music box and its strange power to make memories disappear right at the moment when they became too important to remember. I tried calling my parents, but their phone went straight to voicemail, and when I tried my aunt, she answered. But her voice sounded strange, distant, like she was reading from a script. Your grandmother loved you very much. Some things are better left in the past. Enjoy the music box. It was always meant for you. And then the line went dead, and when I tried calling back, the number was disconnected. The music box started playing on its own, the lid opening slowly without anyone touching it. And this time, the melody continued past the usual stopping point, revealing verses I'd never heard before. Verses that told a story about a little boy who loved visiting his grandmother, who loved the music so much that he never wanted to leave, never wanted to go back to his regular life, and the melody described how the music could make all the sad memories go away, all the fear, all the homesickness, until there was nothing left but the peaceful sound of the lullaby and the gentle spinning of the ballerina. As the music played, I started remembering things that had been hidden for 20 years. Memories of begging my parents to let me stay longer, of crying when they came to pick me up, of the music box, playing endlessly in my room while grandmother sat beside my bed whispering that I could stay forever if I wanted, that the music would help me forget about missing home, about missing my parents, about everything except the beautiful melody and the safe feeling of never having to leave this house again. The photographs in the hidden compartment started changing as I watched, the scratched out faces becoming clearer, revealing my parents in the background of the pictures, looking worried, looking frightened, trying to get my attention while I ignored them and focused only on the music box. And I could see the exact moment in the photos when they realized something was wrong, when they saw how the music had changed me, how I'd stopped being their son and started being something that belonged to the house, to the music, to grandmother's need for permanent company in her lonely Victorian mansion. If you're hearing this, if someone finds this recording on my phone, please know that I tried to destroy the music box, but it keeps reappearing on the mantelpiece, keeps playing its complete melody, keeps showing me more photographs of the child I used to be before my parents rescued me from whatever spell this thing casts. And I think I understand now why they never talked about those early visits, why they looked so relieved when I stopped asking to go back. Because the music box doesn't just play lullabies, it plays promises, offers of eternal peace and safety that sound so appealing when you're tired, when you're lonely, when you're grieving the loss of someone who loved you enough to want to keep you forever. The ballerina is spinning faster now, and the melody is calling me to sleep, to rest, to stop worrying about jobs and responsibilities and adult problems. And if you found this story interesting and want to hear more encounters with mysterious family heirlooms, please like and subscribe, because these experiences need to be documented before they're forgotten. And remember, if you inherit objects that seem to know more about your childhood than you do, don't try to unlock their secrets, because some family treasures are meant to stay in the past where they can't hurt anyone anymore. But here's what I can't understand, what keeps me questioning even as the music grows louder and more persuasive. If my parents saved me from this music box 20 years ago and grandmother kept it all this time waiting for me to inherit it, then who exactly left those specific instructions about items meant for me personally? And why do I have the strange feeling that I should stop fighting the music and finally let it play me to sleep the way it was always supposed to?